Hello, my name is Jaden Tucci, and I'm a grade 11 student at Oak Bay High School. My English class and I have been disjoining and analyzing the Shakespeare play Macbeth for the last 2 months. Before exploring the play Macbeth, I have studied 2 other Shakespeare plays, Midsummer Night's Dream and Romeo and Juliet, in grades 9 and 10. During the long 2 months of studying the play Macbeth, Mr. Mackenzie showed us a movie that we could compare to the playbook and give the group a visual representation of what the setting looked like. The movie also gave us a better understanding of the language of the play and what was really going on as the play evolved into a more difficult state. The movie was a very useful tool for me and the whole English class to gain an overall and better grasp of the Macbeth play. In this video, I will be discussing Shakespeare's life, career, and lasting impact upon theatrical works. I will also discuss a significant passage from his play, Macbeth, which relates to the theme of ambition. William Shakespeare's early life was not out of the ordinary, but as he progressed in age, his life evolved into a world of poetry and stage work. Shakespeare was unofficially born on the 23rd of April in the year of 1564 and was the third of 8 children. As a child, Shakespeare received education at the King's New School in Stratford, which is about a quarter-mile from his house. At this school, William learned the basic grammar of Latin. At the age of 18, Shakespeare married 26-year-old Anne Hathaway, which they married on the 27th of April, 1582. The couple later had a child named Susanna, which was the first of 3 children. She was born on May 6, 1583. Anne Hathaway gave birth to twins, Hamnet and Judith, just 2 years later in 1585. Sadly, his son Hamnet died at 11 years old due to an unknown cause. At approximately age 28, William Shakespeare started his theatrical career between 1585 and 1592. Shakespeare started his successful career in London as an actor, writer, and part owner of the playing company called the Lord Chamberlain's Men, which was later called the King's Men. Shakespeare produced most of his known work between the years 1589 and 1616. In his early career in theater, the plays that he wrote were consisted of mostly comedies and histories, but later in his career, he wrote mainly tragedies, including the play that we have been learning about, Macbeth. For his last wave of writing, he switched to romance. All of his world-famous and historical plays that he wrote were all performed in the Globe Theatre. The Globe was located in Southwark, England, which was a community in the city of London. The Globe Theatre opened sometime during the summer of 1599, just in time for the opening production of Henry V. The Globe was not only used for the plays it held, but also to show social status. For example, there was 4 different groups of seating in the Globe. The first groups of seating were the groundlings, and the people who sat in these seats were the poorest of the poor. Evidently, these seats were located on the ground. The second group were called earthlings, and these people were still poor, but not to the extent of the groundlings. These seats were still on the ground, but the earthlings had a cushion to sit on. Next were the wealthy citizens, and they would be seated in the stands or bleachers. The women would sit in the seats, and the men would stand. Lastly was the seats on the stage. The people who sat in these were extremely wealthy. But how would these people know what kind of play was being showed each day? The Globe didn't necessarily say what exact play was being shown, but would show what type of play it was. They did this using 3 flags on the top of the globe: a white flag for comedy, a black flag for tragedy, and a red flag for a political play. Also on the roof of the Globe included its own personal flag, which had an illustration of Atlas holding the globe. In today's society, a new version of the Globe has been recreated for tourist attraction and also to watch and experience Shakespeare's famous plays. In the next passage I am about to read to you is a very compelling and dramatic statement, but is also directly related to the theme of ambition in the play of Macbeth. What beast was then that made you break this enterprise to me? When you durst do it, then you were a man, and to be more than what you were, you would be so much more the man. Nor time nor place did then adare, and yet you would make both. They have made themselves, and that their fitness now does unmake you. I have given suck, and know how tender it is to love the babe that milks me. I would, while it was smiling in my face, have plucked my nipple from its boneless gums, and dashed the brains out, had I sworn as you have done this. This passage occurs in Act 1, Scene 6, and is very important in the theme of ambition through Lady Macbeth, as she is the one who speaks in this passage. The real question is, how it came to this point of intensity. Well, what happened was Macbeth and Lady Macbeth seized an opportunity to take the crown from the present King Duncan. Their plan to obtain the crown and his power was to kill Duncan while he was visiting their castle of Inverness. Lady Macbeth, at this point, was more ambitious about becoming queen than Macbeth becoming king, as he was passive at the time. At this point in the play, one would have a sense that Lady Macbeth was driving the plot with her ambition. In Act 1, Scene 6, it is Lady Macbeth talking to Macbeth as this passage occurs in the play. They are in their castle of Inverness late in the night, discussing if they are going to commit the assassination of King Duncan. But the main problem is that Macbeth has respect for Duncan and is having trouble dealing with the fact that for him to acquire the crown, he has to kill a friend. But Lady Macbeth does not care about how Macbeth feels about Duncan. She just wants the power. To persuade Macbeth, she questions his manhood and takes a brutal example of bashing her own child's brain. This is an excellent example of Lady Macbeth's ambition and the degree of extreme measure that characters experience throughout the play. After this quote in the play, things begin to heat up in the plot, and the tables turn in characters' ambition. After they assassinate King Duncan, Macbeth's ambition begins to take over and drive the plot. He begins to go on a rampage to keep the throne, killing families and even one of his good friends, Banquo. Macbeth's bloodthirsty mindset later in the play begins to turn against him as he gains more enemies. At this time, when Macbeth begins to take over, Lady Macbeth, on the other hand, is very passive and has lost her sense of ambition. As things begin to spiral out of control, Lady Macbeth decides to jump off the balcony of her castle to plummet her own demise. Obviously, Macbeth is falling apart and is beginning to lose control of the throne. To end the play, Macbeth is slain by Macduff in an epic duel to the death, and his throne is taken over by Malcolm, who was originally heir to the throne. The ambition of the two characters drive the plot at two different sections of the play, but their extremism with the ambition led them to their deaths.